Your daily fix of women's mixed martial arts from the UFC, Invicta FC, Bellator, and one championship. Be in the loop, cause Golden State Media Concepts got you covered. Get your fix of women's MMA with Got You Covered on Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Women's MMA Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Arnel De Leon, and hopefully your day is going bueno. Wherever you are, whoever you are, hopefully your day is going bueno as we are persevering through yet another tough year. 2021, it's getting really difficult, especially here in California, also in Texas, because I got friends who live in Texas, and they're going through a power outage right now. It's very scary, but all the things are getting pretty scary. We can go and look forward towards the future, and right now, in terms of sports culture, things are getting kind of exciting here. Basketball, their all-star weekend sort of thing might be happening. I don't know. We recently went through the Super Bowl. There's also like a lot of talk right now for MLB baseball, surprisingly. The basketball season is getting very interesting. Bellator, by the way, they announced the new rankings. They're going to get things going their way. PFL, their season is going to start on April. One championship also announced that we're going to have 4 title fights in the month of April, one of them being a Demetrius Johnson fight, and so things are getting really excited there. Also, recently, we just had Stam Fairtex making her MMA debut, which was... Okay, so, from the fans' perspective, we know Stam Fairtex she has all the tools to be a future world champion in mixed martial arts, okay? She's a former kickboxing champion, former Muay Thai champion, and in her last bout, to which she pretty much won 95% of the bouts. Up until like the final 40 seconds, and like things just tumbled over badly for her. She made some wrong decisions, and Stam Fairtex pretty much choked. But other than that, though, Stam Fairtex, she's only 24 years old. At the time of recording, she's only 24 years old. And so like, fighters like her and Angela Lee makes you really hopeful for the future of women's mixed martial arts, specifically Asian fighters coming over to America to go, compete, whether it be a one championship, whether it be Bellator, whether it be a UFC, whether it be PFL. There's a lot of Asian fighters coming in. We're going to see a lot of great Asian fighters in one championship, and we're going to see a lot more Asian fighters coming in from Asia over to America as UFC has built a performance center facility building to go and garner new fighters to go develop and act as a feeder system from China. So that is something I'm very hyped up for. But one fighter that I'm definitely not hyped for is Mayce Barber. And I was reading an article, like this article came in just like months ago. And the article was talking about, here are the top fighters you have to be excited about in the future world champions. And on the top of that list was Mayce Barber. And I'm going to be perfectly honest with you right now. I'm going to ask you this question first. What is Mayce Barber's ceiling? What is it? We can all generally agree, right, that Mayce Barber, her ceiling is that she is a future world champion, right? She's in her mid-20s. She's only really getting into it with her striking. She's training with Ben Askren. She's training with Duke Rufus. It's like, everything, like, her support system is really good, Mayce Barber is. And we got people like Joe Rogan, Cormier. They're hyping the heck out of Mayce Barber. Dana White's hyping her up. The UFC. Listen, in her past 2 bouts with Alexa Grasso and Roxanne Modafferi, she's coming in as the heavy favorites. And every time we see a Mayce Barber preview, we're always like, Mayce Barber, look at this girl. Her wrestling is out of this world amazing. I mean, she's got all the tools. Like, I swear, Mayce Barber, I'm afraid, is going to be like the Andrew Wiggins for women's mixed martial arts. Because for Stam Fairtex, it's obviously there. She's made a blunder in the final 40 seconds, okay? That's a prospect. She's got a bright future ahead of her. Future world champion. I know for sure Stam Fairtex and Angela Lee, they're going to do great, alright? They're the 2 young women's female fighters. One of them is a former double world champion, and the other one is a current champion who defeated another champion with Angela Lee and Stam Fairtex. Alright then. Gotcha. Mayce Barber. What is she good at? Like, what is she... If you were to tell me, how is Mayce Barber going to defeat her opponents? Well, you think that in her fight against Mataferi, alright then, Mayce Barber, high elite level wrestler, training with Ben Askren, high elite level wrestler. She's going to go and take her down, ground and pound action, win the fight. Nah. She's got striked. She's got pummeled. Alright then, her against Alexa Grasso. Alright then, Alexa Grasso, German fighter, proper veteran, although more experienced in the ground than Mayce Barber. In theory, Mayce Barber should win, because Mayce Barber is a natural bantamweight competing at flyweight, while we have Alexa Grasso, who is a natural strawweight competing. Alexa Grasso is not even a ranked fighter in the flyweight division. She's a ranked fighter in strawweight, and she's being asked to go move up in weight class in a division that she doesn't fight for, to go fight against one of the hottest prospects in mixed martial arts in Mayce Barber, who is fighting one weight division lower than she should. And when you saw Mayce Barber and Alexa Grasso right next to each other, Cormier was just like singing praise on this girl. Where he was like, look at Mayce Barber, look how big she is. She's obviously like going to be a powerhouse in this division. Look how like her elite level wrestling is going to help her out and smoke opponents. She's so huge. I think she has like a 3-inch reach advantage. No, she had like 3-inch advantage over Alexa Grasso in height. And she even has that greater advantage in like the legs and the arms. So really, when you look at it side by side, and Alexa Grasso, she's not even really a striker. She's not. Alexa Grasso is pretty good, is pretty solid in the clinch and jiu-jitsu. But other than that though, Alexa Grasso doesn't really do that much to really excel herself apart from everyone else. And there's no way her skills can carry over that well at the highest level in the flyweight division. And that's not me sandbagging Alexa Grasso. It's just on paper, when you look at Alexa Grasso and Mayce Barber should win. But Alexa Grasso is much more better. And not only is Alexa Grasso much more better than Mayce Barber is continually becoming kind of a disappointment right now, because it's hard not to watch any of her fights, or her past 2 fights, and be like, okay, this girl should be winning. There are moments in this fight, like her and Alexa Grasso, I counted, there were 4 instances in this bout here where Mayce Barber, she does that thing that we know what wrestlers usually do, where they go in for a jab, then they like tilt their head down, and then they clinch with their opponents. And since Alexa Grasso doesn't have any punching power, she can get away with doing that, of like clinching with her and pressing her onto the cage, and then trying to go for a single leg takedown, and then pressing her on towards the cage, and you're going to work on her with some ground and pound action. It's a good strategy. Alright then. Good. What Mayce Barber is doing logically makes sense. Daniel Cormier commentary, and even Joe Rogan were like, yeah, Mayce Barber, she's doing the right moves here. She's doing what Kamaru Usman is doing. Yeah, which by the way, her fight with Alexa Grasso was a co-main event right before the Kamaru Usman bout. And I was hyping up my friend. I was like, dude, you gotta watch for Mayce Barber, man. Her wrestling is great. Elite level. She also has good knockout power. Like, I've seen it, man. She's really underrated. Next big thing. Alright then. Barber clinches with Grasso. Barber is significantly a lot more bigger. She's lengthier. She's got more reach. She should be, in theory, stronger, right? No. I counted 4 times to which Alexa Grasso switched positions with Mayce Barber in the clinch. And then referee would break them up because nothing's happening. Then Mayce Barber would clinch with Alexa Grasso again. Then Grasso just switched positions yet again. And next thing you know, now it's Alexa Grasso, like, completely dominating Mayce Barber in the clinching, despite the huge size advantage, despite the fact that she's obviously a lot more... Oh man, I don't get it. I just don't get what Mayce Barber is doing here. She is way too passive. I understand that she's going through an injury. Alright, I get it. She's going through an injury. Whatever. But I've been saying this for a long time. If you are moving up in the rankings, why are you trying to fight through the point system? Why? Because you're not... Like, I always am of the opinion that if you are trying to move up in the rankings here, I'm not saying that you can't avoid the decision at all times. Of course, because you're going to be fighting some high-level talent out there, and there's no way you can go finish them. You can't always knock out opponents. You can't always submit them. I get it. But then you have fighters who purposefully go for the point system, and it'd be one thing if you're like Kamaru Usman, in which Yes, he's winning via the point system when he was making his way up in the rankings, but he was dominating guys with his wrestling. And if Mayce Barber wants to win through the point system, she should at least dominate her opponents through her wrestling, but she ain't doing that. So what the heck is Mayce Barber good at? She's not all the confident standing up. like she's not. She's not. Like, Alexa Grasso pretty much beat her out in all the stand-up exchanges. So, okay, she can strike. Can she at least wrestle? No. Okay, no. I'm being mean there. Yes, she can wrestle. In theory, she should be able to wrestle. But she's not controlling her opponent. She's not being as dominant as she should be. And, okay, so Mayce Barber, she does sound off on what she thought about the fight here. So I'm reading this, by the way, from MMAJockey.com. And so training camp went great for Barber. All right, then. She gives full credit to Alexa Grasso. By Alexa Grasso, she is 4-3. Or she came to that show 4-3. Now she's 5-3 in the UFC. All right, then. That said, Barber admitted that despite her knee being healed out of 100%, note that, what happened in her past appearance was still on her mind. I felt like my camp was great, she told BJPen.com in a recent interview. Training was awesome. My weight cut went great, but I didn't realize how much I would feel my knee in there and think about it. My timing was also off, my range was off, a lot of different things were not what I expected them to be. But props to Alexa Grasso, because she had a great game plan, but she did what she needed to do so, and she got the win. So, it was right here in the article, in rounds 1 and 2, Barber struggled to put in much offense, which is true. And she goes on to continue on saying, and I quote, I'm definitely happy with how the third round went, and I learned a lot, because she was desperate. The only reason Barber had a good third round was because the first and second round was so bad that she had to go and make up a lot of it in the third round. And she goes, she says then again, obviously as soon as I lost, I wanted to deal with it. There were no injuries, I'm healthy, so it was a bitter pill to swallow, like, dang, I didn't perform. I didn't do what I felt was going to happen. I was a little bit more bitter, so I didn't think back about the lessons now. I'm going to sit down and go through the whole camp, the training, and what I can learn from it. Barber continues saying, I think there are always going to be people that are like, well, they see someone with a goal or plan, they either want to see you achieve it or they want to see you fail miserably. There are always going to go both ways. Like I told you before, at least they're watching. But yeah, there are always going to be people that want to see you fail. Yeah, haters gonna hate. Alright, moving on. The haters gonna hate thing, it means nothing. I'm gonna be bluntly honest to you. Anybody who says, yo man, you got some haters. Everybody's got haters. I don't get why people say, oh, I got like haters. Everybody's got haters. Like, I got haters. Okay then? Everybody, like all my friends got haters. Everybody has haters. Anybody who goes out there and is on social media has haters. I don't get like, I feel like people who say, you know, I got haters, essentially, which she's not saying the word specifically haters, but she's essentially saying that. She's like, I got people who want to see you fall down, blah, blah, blah. That's normal. Like, it's a normal thing that happens to everybody and anybody. And all because you have more haters than other people doesn't make you the exception, gosh darn it. She then goes on to say on what she can expect from herself. She hopes to come back to the cage back as soon as May. She says, the destination is still the same, but we have a detour we need to go around. The path might change a little bit, but the title is still the goal. For the long run, how we get there, whether it is to be a bunch of more people, to make some money, we will find out. There should be a lot of growth, and you will see a lot more grittiness and a lot more going on after it. And finishing girls, we're going to see them, I'm not joking. She says literally, a meaner version of me. A meaner version of you. You weren't even that mean in the beginning. Oh man, I know I'm being really, really mean on Mayce Barber. And it's because I've seen this happen so many times in other sports. Where you see this person, this athlete, and she's matched up with somebody who she should beat. And you're like, oh my goodness, you've got all the tools. You're great. Sam Fairtex is doing awesome. Like, Angela Lee is doing awesome. Like, Maria Agapova, at least she's in the right direction in her fight with Shayna Dobson. She lost that fight, but she was in the right direction there. Amanda Ribas is in the right direction. She just got outplayed by somebody who was better than her in the skill of fighting, in the skill of stand-up, and that was Maria Rodriguez. Rodriguez is more confident in herself. Like, there's a lot of prospects who, in terms of mentally and in their training and how they present themselves in their fights, are in a lot more better position than Mayce Barber. And I want to see fighters like Mayce Barber go on to succeed. But oh my goodness, she has to really show. She really has to show me and show all her haters and show all the people who are fight fans out there that she isn't just all hype and that she legitimately can be a future world champion. She can be a champion, but will she actually fulfill her potential? I don't know. You're listening to the GSMC Women's MMA Podcast. Come back after a short break here. See you soon.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info. Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And we are back. So let's go to the news brief portion of the podcast here. And so, Justine Edwards, UFC Justine Edwards, dropping down to flyweight, wants full training camp for at 125-pound debut. This is coming from WMMArankings.com. So Justine Edwards has announced plans to drop down to flyweight as she prepares to make her third appearance for the UFC later this year. Edwards, who's 10-3 in her MMA career, has certainly had a busy year. Busy year? It's been only 2 months in. The 25-year-old made her short notice debut on January 16, impressing fans with a dominant unanimous decision victory over Ji-Yeon Kim. She would save the day once again early this month, taking another extremely short notice fight, this time losing against Carol Rosa. During a recent chat with MMA Junkie, Edwards opened up on her desire to move down to what she believes is her true weight class at 125 pounds. Her nickname, the La Pantera, also says that she is done with taking short notice fights and wants the opportunity to have a full camp for her third UFC appearance. She goes on to say, and I quote, "For the next fight, I do want a full camp. I want to adjust certain things, and if the opportunity comes up, I think you'll see my fight at 125 pounds. If the opportunity doesn't come up and I get another fight at 135 pounds, but I need to get that stronger because my natural weight is around 140 pounds. I truly feel like that's my division. I already spoke about it with my trainer and he thinks the same. We're just taking things step by step. We got the opportunity to fight at 135 pounds, and I wasn't going to say no because I did start at 135. So that's why I took the fights. Ideally, if I could, I like to go fight at 125 pounds, but also I like to be able to fight in both divisions. I like to fight, I like to have fun, so I like to fight in the two weight classes. If I can make the weight, I'll fight there. Guess what? She's making money. She's making money. 2 fights, 2 months, good on for that. Now, obviously, she wants to go and be able to garner some wins because it really does suck that you have to go and you have this impromptu training camp. You have less than, a week or two, maybe 3 weeks to go prep up for a fighter while the other fighter has been training for several months, and you got to go get into in-shape time. It gets really difficult. Now, for Justine Edwards, she wants to go compete at flyweight. I think that really is best for her because how I see things, Justine Edwards, she seems way too small for bantamweight. She does. I think she's way too small for bantamweight. If she can cut down even more to even strawweight, she'd be a complete menace. With her length, with her reach advantage, man, oh my goodness, Justine Edwards, she can really do great things if she does manage to go to 125 or even lower to 115. So for Justine Edwards, her fight against Carol Rosa was not good. I think Justine Edwards has to be happy for the fact that she even got the opportunity to go make a whole lot of money fight against Carol Rosa, because she really was there was no way she was going to win that fight. Like, Kira Rosa was pretty much beating her in every facet of the fight game. She was, like, Justine Edwards is supposed to be a striker, but she ends up losing in the striking exchanges against Kira Rosa, and then she loses in the wrestling. So, you know what? I like Kira Rosa's fighting style. She's really fun. I would love to see her against someone like Shayna Dobson or Marie Agapova. I think those fights would be complete barn burners. And so it is also coming in from the... So, Zhang Raleigh and Rose Namajunas. Huge women's title fight has been scheduled for UFC 261. Plus an additional 150-pound contest also in the works. So, according to Combate.com, the UFC is targeting a strawweight title fight between Zhang Raleigh and Rose Namajunas for the main event of UFC 261 on April 24. Also, former UFC strawweight champ Carla Esparza is also set to feature on the card when she takes on surging contender Yan Xiaonan. Esparza will apparently be brought in to fight against Zhang if things do fall through with Rose. So, now we know how it is. Because we're getting reports all the time for the past month or two, and with Dana White saying, you know what, Rose Namajunas, she's not really fully committed into fighting against Zhang Raleigh. There's like contract disputes happening. There's some arguments happening here. So we're thinking about getting Carla Esparza. That's how it was a month ago. And there really was this, a potential Carla Esparza versus Zhang Raleigh fight coming up. But now, we are getting the fight that many people want to see, and Rose and Zhang Raleigh. And what's good about this is that Carla Esparza is a matchup nightmare for everybody in the UFC strawweight division. She is, pound for pound, the best women's wrestler among all the women in the UFC. I say she can easily out-wrestle everybody and anybody in the UFC strawweight division. She's that darn good as a grappler. Now, the problem with Carla Esparza, though, is that she has a tendency of striking when she really shouldn't be striking, and she makes a lot of questionable decisions when she does grapple with you. But if she fights you with a set game plan, and it's her controlling you on the ground, and not, taking risks, as in trying to go for submission holds when she really shouldn't be, or trying to go get superior position when instead of too early, instead of taking her time with it, there are a lot of issues in Carla Esparza's game. But if all the planets align perfectly well, and her corner crew and her trainers do well with her, she can go and beat anybody in the strawweight division. She can beat Zhang Raleigh. She can defeat Rose Namajunas. I think Carla Esparza versus Joanna Jacek, if they're to have a rematch, there's a real possibility, or an increased chance, of Carla Esparza winning the bouts. I am that high in Carla Esparza. Now, would I like to see Carla Esparza versus Zhang Raleigh, or Carla Esparza versus Rose Namajunas? Honestly, no. Unlike Kamaru Usman, Carla Esparza has never really... She has made developments in her striking. Like, she's more competent in it, a lot more comfortable in her power game. And when she does go... And look, when she does hit you in the clinching, it actually does matter. It used to be a thing that when she got close range into clinching zone, she just goes and shoots in for a double leg takedown. And she does do that sometimes, but now she is clinching, throwing in some uppercuts, doing some rear boxing, and then gets a takedown in. So there are improvements to Carla Esparza's striking. However, though, she's still not the most exciting fighter out there in the world. She really isn't. Like, she's kind of moving up in the rankings, the same how Kamaru Usman was moving up the rankings at welterweight, where both of them are having these, like, really boring, really drawn-out fights, where they end up winning by either split or unanimous decision. Really drawn out, the crowd is booing them. She's not the most ideal fighter that fight fans want to see, but we can respect how good of a fighter she is. And so we are going to see Zhang Raleigh versus Rose Namajunas. That's going to be happening. That's a proper dream fight. People have been talking about for a year now. For about a proper year, ever since Zhang Raleigh... No. Remember, Zhang Raleigh was originally going to be fighting against Rose Namajunas until Rose Namajunas, she pulled out for, concerns. Rose Namajunas, she's definitely one of those fighters who, if her heart is not in it, she will not go and compete. If she has, all their stuff going on in her mind, she just refuses to fight. And it's very interesting to know that Carla Esparza will be in this card also. That means Dana White and the fight bookers, they're thinking to themselves, okay, there is a real possibility that Rose Namajunas might drop out of this fight. And if that happens, then Carla Esparza, she's readily available. And since Yan Xiaonan, at the time of this recording right now, she's ranked number 5. They can go and pull a Michelle Watterson. They can go pull in a Claudia Cadella in to go fight. They can go pull in, Tatiana Suarez or Nina Ansaroff if either of them are available. It's easy to adjust and make a new fight with Yan Xiaonan. It's just very difficult to find a competent replacement for Rose Namajunas. Now, if that does happen, and Weili Zhang and Rose Namajunas, like, that fight gets scrapped, sadly, and we get Carla Esparza replacing Rose, which apparently the UFC brass really do believe might be a real possibility, I can see Carla Esparza defeating Zhang Weili. I could really see that. Now, one thing to know about Zhang Weili on why people are saying, oh, Zhang Weili would defeat Carla Esparza, would it be because Zhang Weili is how strong she is? And with Carla Esparza, she's strong in small spurts, but for the most part, she has a tendency of being pretty passive. And I've never seen anybody ever in the UFC be able to manhandle or to dominate or to power through against Jessica Andrade. I've never seen that. And so, it'd be interesting to see, who's stronger, the power of Zhang Weili or, the wrestling of Carla Esparza. Now then, what's very interesting to know about this fight, though, is the fact that, well, let's say that Carla Esparza were to defeat Zhang Weili. Then we might see Carla Esparza versus Rose Namajunas. Then we might see Joanna Jędrzejczyk fighting against Zhang Weili again for another normal contenders. There could be an interim title bout happening here. There are a lot of moving pieces happening. Here. And also, what's very interesting about this fight is that it will be taking place in Nevada. The UFC were talking with the Singaporean government to host the event on April 24, but it's fallen apart because I do know Dana White was very high on, okay, let's go and have Zhang Weili compete in the main event in Asia. That's a big thing. Abu Dhabi technically is Asia. You're not wrong there. If you have it take place in Abu Dhabi, it's in Asia. So yeah, but that's not going to happen in Asia. It looks like it's going to happen in Las Vegas unless something pops up randomly. We are 2 months away from this event happening, so all the fighters and the UFC brass, they have 2 months prep time to get this match going on, and hopefully, let's cross our fingers here, hopefully this fight is able to go off. This fight has all the potential to be a fight of the year candidates. I don't know what the mental health concern is right now for Rose Namajunas. Whatever Rose Namajunas wants to do, that's on her, but at least the UFC are taking precautions as to knowing that they know something about Rose Namajunas that we don't. Chances are Rose Namajunas might be second-guessing herself. Rose Namajunas, ever since her loss to Jessica Andrade, where to which she got slammed, there's always been this level of self-doubt in herself. If you follow her on her Instagram or in all her interviews, yes, she defeated Jessica Andrade in the rematch, but lost in the tail end. In the end, Rose Namajunas was like, yeah, man, I'm excited about this. I love fighting again. I don't know. Moods can change. And Rose Namajunas is one of those fighters who has shown that she does get very stressed and she does get panic attacks and has a whole lot of anxiety before fights happened. So that could be an element as to why Dana White and the UFC brass are like, okay, we don't know how mentally prepped up Rose Namajunas is. Even Dana White has said it, where he was discussing on who's fighting against Zhang Weili. Says next, Dana White says all this hinges on the mental stability of Rose Namajunas. And hopefully Rose will be ready for the fight, and when it does happen, or if it does happen, it could be fight of the year. No doubt about it. So there's another one coming in. We got a flyweight fight between Katlyn Chookagian and Viviane Araújo targeted for UFC 262 on May 15. This first coming in from Brett Okamoto of ESPN, which we're going to watch Viviane Araújo versus Katlyn Chookagian. Wow. So Katlyn Chookagian, dominant victory over Cynthia Calvillo. And I love Katlyn Chookagian here. Like, her and Joanne Calderwood pretty much are, okay, you two, you're the gatekeepers here, man. It doesn't matter how well of a performance you do. Because here's the thing. If Cynthia Calvillo would have defeated Katlyn Chookagian in their bout, Cynthia Calvillo would have been, second in line for title fights. Katlyn Chookagian, even if she were to defeat Viviane Araújo, she ain't getting a title fight anytime soon. It ain't happening. Which is very upsetting. I think Katlyn Chookagian will love to see another rematch. I would love to see a rematch, even though I'm pretty sure, 99% sure, Valentina would defeat Katlyn Chookagian. But you know what? If she's being paid, alright then. Chookagian has talked about this, in post and pre-fight interviews, where she is saying that the retirement window is getting closer. The window is open, and is tightening up as the fight years go on. But I'm looking at this right now. It's who's Katlyn Chookagian fighting after this? Because if you look at the names she's defeated Anthony Shevchenko, who the UFC really wants to book, so can have sister bouts. Jennifer Maia, who lost to Valentina, so we're not going to see Jennifer Maia anytime close in the contendership rankings. She defeated Joanne Calderwood, another journeyman. Lauren Murphy, who I don't know if the UFC are really supporting. I think they want to see Jessica Andrade versus Valentina. We could see Lauren Murphy versus Jessica Andrade. I think that's the perfect fight to make if Valentina Shevchenko is unavailable, because we do have a tendency of seeing Valentina sometimes being available, and you don't know what her actual availability is. I still remember in her matchup against Joanne Calderwood, like she ended up being like 2 months available after the Joanne Calderwood matchup against Jennifer Maia. And I was thinking, wait a minute, Valentina, were you available or were you not available? And then Jennifer Maia had like less than 2 months prep time to go fight against like Valentina, and it was a really dominant victory by the side of like Valentina. She also ended up defeating Alexis Davis and Irene Aldana, who are two prospects that the UFC really emphasize a lot for being the future. If you remember Irene Aldana's fights, whenever there's a promo package of her, it's very similar to Amanda Ribas, where they're like, this girl, wow, she's got like superstar potential, like she's walking down. And I remember Daniel Cormier talked about this, where he says, Irene Aldana, if you look at her, she definitely has superstar potential in her. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, she does. Like, the way how she's being presented in a lot of her fights, she looks like a huge major star, but she's losing to these gatekeepers. So, that's happening. Who I think is going to be between Chikagian and Araujo? It should be Araujo winning. It should be. But Araujo's, like, past accomplishments aren't all that impressive. Like Jessica Ai, Roxanne Modafferi, and Montana Rosa. Okay? I'm not sure who will win that, but my money is on Killer Chikagian. You're listening to the GSMC Women's MMA Podcast. Come back after a short break here. See you soon.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play. This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA, to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
And we are back, going on with the news brief. So is coming in right now that UFC's Paulina Viana on her career resurgence and why climbing up the rankings is not her immediate priority. UFC strawweight Paulina Viana is riding high, coming off a 2-fight win streak following a pair of sensational first-round armbar victories. And Paulina Viana, who is currently 12-4 in her mixed martial arts career, improved her win streak to 2 this past Saturday at UFC 258, tapping out Mallory Martin by way of an armbar in the first round. The UFC awarded Viana with a $50,000 bonus. $50,000 performance night bonus. By the way, $50,000, it's a whole lot of money. And this reminds me of the fact that Dana White, he was like hypercritical of Ariel Helwani yet again. But with Ariel Helwani being an official, employee of ESPN, it led to the UFC losing $50,000. And of course, $50,000 in the grand scheme of things in the world of sports isn't a lot of money. But for these fighters, for these MMA fighters, $50,000, it's a lot of money. So congratulations for Viana making $50K. Having come off another first-round victory via armbar over Emily Whitmire this past August, I am still disappointed we didn't see Hannah Cyphers versus Emily Whitmire. That's a fight I really want to see. Emily Whitmire right now, I don't think we're going to be seeing her anytime soon in the UFC, sadly enough. So the 20-year-old is finally showing the UFC fans what she truly is capable of after a rough stretch with the promotion. She was coming off losses, but now it is according to her interview she had with Combate. She goes on to say, and I quote, "Unfortunately, I wasn't doing well psychologically 2 years ago. I've always trained hard, tried to put on a good performance, but you know, an athlete must be in a good state of mind for that to happen. I'm doing really well right now. My family is close to me again. Now I get to know the real Polyana Viana." Famed for once putting a beat down on a criminal in Brazil who tried to rob her at gunpoint, Viana says that she is confident the current version of herself has what it takes to contend with the best fighters at the strawweight division. She goes on to say, and I quote, "I do think I'm ready to face the best in the division. However, at the moment, it's not what I'm targeting. At the moment, I want to make money to help my family. I don't want to go up and down the rankings again later on. For now, I just want to make money. I don't intend to fight for the title immediately." Good on for Vienna, because she is nowhere near the rankings, and I don't think right now the UFC really wants to push her overly too much. I think that's going to be no bueno, especially considering that right now, yeah, I think Dana White, he says, I'm trying to find the exact article, but yeah, no. So Dana White, he's promoting the heck out of Alexa Grasso, calling her like the Ronda Rousey of Mexico, and considering Vienna's 2 armbar victories, that if she does go on to get 2 more armbar victories, then Paulina Vieira, she'll be, the next Ronda Rousey also. Who knows? But Roxanne Modafferi, she talks about Mayce Barber. Roxanne Modafferi being the woman who pretty much derailed Mayce Barber's momentum. And Mayce Barber herself, in her post-fight conference, does say that her recent loss, that her loss to Roxanne Modafferi, destroying her winning streak and ending her undefeated streak, pretty much, mentally got to her. So, Roxanne Modafferi praises improved Mayce Barber following loss to Alexa Grasso at UFC 258. Roxanne Modafferi is impressed with her former foe in Mayce Barber, to which Roxanne Modafferi, via Twitter, goes on to say, "I thought it was a great fight, and I thought she looked improved from our fight. I was impressed." Okay, gonna say this right now, actually. I don't believe Roxanne Modafferi is being ironic in that, because if it's anybody else saying that stuff, like if it's like Israel Adesanya and he sees John Jones fight, then Israel Adesanya is like, you know what? I'm impressed by that, actually. Like, he doesn't actually believe in it. Roxanne Modafferi, I'm gonna be honest with you, that's something that like most people don't want to see, really. They don't want to see people who beat you decisively giving you tips or giving you like praise. I don't know, something about that like checks people off at times. Like, it happens to me. Like, I was participating in like in a fighting game tournament, or if I participate in a basketball tournament, and I end up losing, and the other person who I'm playing against, like the other team, they'll be like, you know what, man, you did well for yourself. It's a weird middle finger to you, essentially. I don't know how to explain it, but if you've ever done anything competitive, like your opponent giving you compliments when they beat you seems really like downtrodden. It's weird. Errol Hawani on Twitter does say that people are going to want to pile in on Mayce Barber now because she was so vocal about being the youngest champion. Hogwash, she's only 22 years old. She has a solid base and skill set. She'll be back if she wants to be. Yes, another thing about, I am hypercritical of Mayce Barber, but me being hypercritical of her, I don't think I'm being overly mean. I don't think so. And I don't think it's really mean for people to be critical of her on social media, because guess what? We do this for every other sports. Remember like Mike Trout when he came to MLB? That happened. When you want to Chichik and Ronda Rousey, when they were coming in to UFC, there were a lot of people who were turned off by women's mixed martial arts. And I don't remember people being like, oh man, you got to relax on them, be nice to them. No. We're currently doing this right now. Like, I'm a basketball fan. We're hypercritical, overly critical of players like Lonzo Ball, Zion Williamson, LaMelo Ball. Any new player who comes in, whether they be an 18-year-old kid, 19, 22, 21, doesn't really matter. We're hypercritical of athletes if they have a certain expectations, even at the young age of 16 years old. It's happened. Like LaMelo Ball, the dude was pretty much criticized to crazy at the age of 13 years old. And so, you know what? I think it's right for me to be critical of Mayce Barber here, considering her hype. If you're a young athlete and you didn't get the hype as much as you did, I would probably ignore you. But considering that you do have the hype, I gotta have a certain expectation of you now because of the hype machine. If the hype machine is gonna get on you, then I might as well be hop on it and be all right then, let's see what you got here. If it disappoints, then of course I'll be disappointed. That just normally happens. It's not just an MMA thing. It's not a women's MMA thing. It's just a general sports thing with fans and for athletes. It's a strange relationship, but that's something that's pretty normal for all sports. I should be nicer to Mayce Barber, but you know what? Here's what I think. I think Mayce Barber, she needs a break. Yeah. I think she needs a break, and she needs to fight somebody who is incredibly low rank. Because she's going through the same phase right now where Anthony Shevchenko had, 2 years ago, where Auntie Nina, she's going to come in, she's going to wreck everybody, and then she goes through a losing streak, doesn't end up well for her, and it takes time. She had to go through a long layoff for her to go get back on. Mayce Barber, I think the same thing goes for her. She's only 23 years old, and I don't know if she's mentally prepared to handle the stress and the anxiety and all the pressure to live up to the hype. So, introducing King Casey O'Neill. We go from one young prospect to another. The undefeated 23-year-old flyweight prospect makes her UFC debut this Saturday, with the main card having the main event being Derek Lewis versus Curtis Blades. That fight will certainly be something and exciting, but I am also excited for Casey O'Neill here. She's undefeated. She'll be participating at UFC Vegas 19. O'Neal is a highly touted prospect in the women's 125-pound division and is currently undefeated with a 5-0 record. Just putting it out there, Mayce Barber came in undefeated, 6-0 record. The 23-year-old has been dominating the competition with UAE Warriors and Eternal MMA, whilst taking on women with more fight experience than herself, fighting out of Australia, but by the way of Scotland, UK. O'Neal trains at a highly acclaimed Tiger Muay Thai gym in Phuket, Thailand. Famous for being the team behind the elite-level strikers with the home of UFC flyweight champion Valentin Shevchenko, the King has proven to be more than just a striker, however, having picked up a number of submission victories throughout her amateur career, and now in her professional MMA career. The UFC debutant will certainly be tested this Saturday when she battles against Shayna Dobson at UFC Vegas 19. Also known as Danger, Dobson's coming off an impressive victory over Maria Agapova. Oh man, this will be so tough. This will be such a tough bout for Casey. If Casey can turn... You know what? No, Casey will do better than Maria Agapova here. There are 3 prospects in the fight division that people are incredibly high on. And also, here's the thing. The reason why we are very high on these prospects is because the flyweight division is pretty stale. Being honest with you. We love Valentina Shevchenko. We love Roxanne Modafferi. But for the most part here, the flyweight division, for all the talent there is, it's very stagnant. It's very stagnant. And Valentina Shevchenko, it's not her fault. If you look at the flyweight rankings and you look at all the records, you have fighters who are part of the top 10 who have subpar 500 win-loss records. Subpar 500 win-loss records. None of them are being booked high except Valentina. And unless you're part of the hardcore MMA community where you love fighters like Irene Aldana, then it's very hard for these flyweights to go and make a name for themselves. That's why it seems like every single couple months we're getting this Mayce Barber, next big thing. Maria Agapova, next big thing. Mackenzie Dern, next big thing. This always happens. And so, Casey O'Neill, you're going to have a tough fight against Shayna Dobson. And Shayna Dobson, when she fought against Maria Agapova, Dobson was the huge underdog in the fight. Huge underdog, and she used that as a way to build confidence on herself. Because Shayna Dobson in the post-fight was like, yo, can you believe people thought that I was the underdog? Heck no, I'm not the underdog of that fight. I'm better than Maria Agapova. And she shut up Maria Agapova. Maria Agapova is one of the most exciting fighters out there in the UFC fight division. I want to see more Maria Agapova, but oh my goodness, she was thrown to the wolves, fighting somebody who was as tough as Shayna Dobson, and used the fact that Shayna Dobson was coming as the underdog. She used that to, make her a better fighter. She used that as a form of okay, people think I'm the underdog here. No, I'm going to prove them wrong. Oh man, so Casey O'Neill versus Shayna Dobson. There's nothing new for Shayna. Casey O'Neill, you better take her down. You better grapple with her because she is one strong girl. and any little bit, and you cannot knock her out. You cannot knock out Shayna Dobson. You gotta fight her smart. You gotta fight her methodically, very calculating, because she's gonna make it to a dog war. And if it does become a dog war, Shayna Dobson was gonna win the fight. And then we're gonna have another prospect going through their first loss. So they ain't so good. Agapova went through her first loss. Really took a bite on her. We got, Mayce Barber taking her second loss. Not doing good for her. Hopefully things go well for O'Neal. Meanwhile, Daniel Cormier has big words to say for Alexa Grasso. Cormier goes on to say, she is the best pure boxer in all of female MMA. Best pure boxer in all of female MMA. Really? Over Rose Namajunas? Really? Maybe that's just Cormier hyping Alexa Grasso up. That probably is it, though. Because Alexa Grasso, her stand-up against Mayce Barber, that was more of a case of, okay, Mayce, you're not really doing much here, and Alexa Grasso just, picking you apart because due to your inactivity. And I say, Alexa Grasso was mostly beating out, Mayce Barber, more because of Mayce Barber's passiveness and the fact that Alexa Grasso was just a lot more aggressive and was a lot more active in the bouts. I wouldn't say it's because of her boxing abilities, because, heck, I would say that Rose Namajunas and Joanna Jędrzejczyk are incredibly great boxers for in the women's divisions. I was Zhang Raleigh is a great boxer, Joanna Jędrzejczyk is a great boxer. Heck, even Claudia Cadella, her boxing is pretty on point. The Maria Gapova, outside the top 10, really great boxer. Amanda Ribas' boxing is really good. It just wasn't enough against Marina Rodriguez. I wouldn't say Alexa Grasso is the best. Yeah, I don't know. You're kind of stepping in too far there. Wee bit too far. But another person who's really hot on Alexa Grasso is also Dana White. Because Dana White goes on to say that Grasso's a girl that we were looking at a long time ago. We thought she was going to be the Ronda Rousey of Mexico. She had a couple of speed bumps in her career, but she's on point now. Her punching is crisp and clean. The distance she kept, she couldn't look any more perfect tonight against an absolute savage. During a chat with reporters following UFC 58, Alexa Grasso reacted to Dana White's response and goes on to say, and I quote, "Of course I want to be that in Mexico, but you have to be intelligent and not take the hype and the media and all the volume. The attention gets more important than your training. I love to be hearing that, but I just want to focus and train and be better and better and better." So, you know what? Good, at least for Alexa Grasso, that the UFC and major names from the organization are very high on you. And you might hear saying, how old is Alexa Grasso? Alexa Grasso is a journeyman veteran fighter, but she's still fairly young. Alexa Grasso is only 27 years old. We are seeing the best version of her. Now, of course, she lost to Carla Esparza, but Carla Esparza, she's a tough nut to crack. That's really not really a negative thing. And Tatiana Suarez and Felice Herrig, those are three fighters who competed either at the top 5 or the top 10 for the longest time. So, yes, Alexa Grasso has gone through some speed bumps, but she had an impressive victory over Ji-Yeon Kim, who's another prospect who the UFC are really high on. So, Alexa Grasso right now, if things keep going well for her and she gets maybe 2-3 fights in a row, she might be in the top 5. Who knows? You're listening to the GSMC Women's MMA Podcast, coming back after a short break here. See you soon.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
And we are back. And so while a lot of people are down on Mayce Barber, meanwhile UFC President Dana White on why he still sees big things for Mayce Barber following 2-fight losing skid. He goes on to say, and I quote, "She's a savage. She's one of the most ambitious and toughest young women that I've ever met. So I expect nothing but big things from her. She's still a baby still. She's got nothing but time. I know she put this unbelievable pressure on herself to be champion before John Jones, and is going to set goals for herself, but she's a baby. She's nothing but time, and she only is going to get better. Yes, she definitely will only get better. The thing, though, is how will she handle accumulating these losses, though? That's what really matters. No one's questioning her talent. It's just a matter of whether she has the mental fortitude to keep up and become who a lot of people, including herself, thought she can become. And so, Emily Whitmire, I said that the future for Emily Whitmire is pretty bleak right now. I was really hyped for her bout against Hannah Cybers because I said, I think like 2-3 weeks back, that Hannah Cybers versus Emily Whitmire is essentially going to be a bout between two fighters who will be fighting for their careers and further fighting for their jobs. And Emily Whitmire, she has been forced out of UFC Vegas 20 bouts. Promotion is now seeking a short notice replacement. Reports surfaced on Sunday that Emily Whitmire, who's 4-4 in her MMA career, has been forced to withdraw from 115-pound bout against Sam Hughes. The reason for the withdrawal has not yet been disclosed. The organization is seeking to bring in a short notice replacement to fight against Sam Hughes. Sam Hughes is 5-2, made her UFC debut back this past December, losing to Tisa Torres by way of first-round TKO. Prior to signing with the organization, the 20-year-old was going through a 5-of-6 fight win streak, including 4 stoppage victories. So the future for Emily Whitmire, yeah, not looking good. So the fight will be coming up February 27, which will be 9 days from now at the time of this recording. 9 days from now. So, you know what? Whoever, I'm thinking right now. You know what? You know who'd be up to it? Justine Edwards. So Justine Edwards, she's, I think, joining like in 2 impromptu fights in the year of 2021 already. And it'll be like very interesting to know like if she is able to fight 3 times over the span of 2 months. That's a whole lot of money. But you know what? She said that she wants to have a full training camp this time and not just go in blindly. But I'm telling you now, if there's anybody who wants to go and make a whole lot of money, you know, being given the opportunity to go make, you know, a couple $1,000s, well, you know what? Now's your chance. And so sadly, I got a report on this, but former Invicta FC fighter Sarah Patterson passes away at the age of 36. Sarah Patterson, a former lightweight champion, has passed away. This came in from Tim Bissell. Women's MMA veteran Sarah Patterson has passed away. The one-time Invicta FC fighter was just 36 years old. News of Patterson's passing comes via her fight team, Fighter Alias, who released a tribute to Patterson yesterday on Facebook. Goes on to say that on her Facebook that we are deeply saddened upon learning the passing yesterday of our friend and fighter, team fighter Elisa Sarah Patterson. Sarah had an amazing spirit and was such a kind-hearted person. We were proud of her in her run during Invicta, and dang, she passed away only at the age of 36. That is sad. So Invicta FC then put a statement out there on their Twitter saying that we are saddened by the passing of former Invicta athlete Sarah Patterson. Our thoughts go out to her friends and family. Her last fight was back in 2018 for Invicta FC 32. There she faced featured Invicta title contender Kevin Young. Patterson, who lived in Cedar Rapids, began her pro MMA career in the Iowa regional circuit back in 2002. In 2015, she appeared in IC Combat Sports. Her win over, it's sad. That is sad. Now, her record was 5-5, which is pretty upsetting to know that her career in MMA wasn't as extravagant. But even then, that's very upsetting. You never want to see fighters pass away at such an early age. Oh, that's really upsetting. It's happening now, not just in MMA, but generally. Like, if you ever go on Twitter, or go on Facebook, you're always seeing a report like someone passing away. Like, it'd be nice if I can go like maybe 1 month and a celebrity or somebody, you know, passes away at a young age. That would be really nice for once. 2021 is going off already at a very rocky start considering what's happening now in California and Texas. But we just gotta hope. We gotta hope and pray that things are gonna go all bueno down the line. And so I found this piece of news here. It's a very interesting one. But a headline is coming from SureDog.com. Headline being Cinderella with an MMA spin. Written by Dimitra Sanak. So, some might draw a connection between Marina Moroz and Cinderella, minus a ball at which is a dance, a measured carriage to which she can ride in fairy godmother. But she is the first Ukrainian female to compete in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Once again, her name is Marina Moroz. She achieved her success through sheer determination while overcoming the inconceivable obstacles that life has placed before her. Moroz grew up in a farm in Matanovka, a village in central Ukraine. She can remember helping her parents with work around the house, from weeding beds in the garden and cooking meals to milking cows and unloading grain-filled machines. Because her parents lacked the money necessary to hire workers, hard physical work was a constant companion. Miraz enrolled in school a year earlier. Now, at the age of 12, she was actively engaging in karate and had forced school bullies to turn their focus elsewhere. Teachers also learned to fear the inadequate girl, as it was said, as she distinguished herself through a physical might she would use without hesitation. Before long, everyone at school knew that prodding Miraz would be met with a fist in the teeth. Like most places, Ukraine encourages the pursuit of higher education after grade school. Miraz did not enjoy much success in traditional subjects, kind of like me, but she excelled in karate and boxing. As a result, she chose to attend, this will be a hard one here, the Dnipropetrovsk Institute of Physical Education. It was probably the most difficult time in my life, Miraz says. There was no money at all, and I never wanted to make it for my parents, saying how hard that they lived. I was immediately accepted onto the junior women's boxing team of Ukraine. But they did not pay money there. I had to train with all kinds of competitions at my own expense. I got up at 6 in the morning so that by 8 I would already be in the gym and for my morning workout. And there was another workout at 5 in the evening. I walked everywhere to save money or on transportation, and even got a job cleaning the floors in a cafe near the Institute hostel. Once, when I was leaving work late, some drug addicts attacked me. One blow was enough for one of them to fall, and the rest ran away. This was my one and only street fights. Miraz fought through hunger during her studies at the Institute, and at 5'8", it was not difficult for her to make the limit to the bantamweight division. She knew nothing of sports nutrition. At most, she was advised to eat Snickers before each workout. Miraz was initially the ugly duckling on the junior team, but by the time she turned 21, she had several international competitions under her belt and national championships in boxing and kickboxing on her resume. And now, despite her notoriety, her financial struggles persisted. Miraz soon decided she no longer wanted to work for medals and certificate alone, and had no desire to continue living on bread and water. She traded in her amateur stripes. Around the same time, the Opla Challenge organization staged a mixed martial arts event in Kharkov. Miraz was offered $400 to win, and she agreed in terms without hesitation, deciding that fighting was much more enjoyable than scrubbing the floors. However, there was one major issue with MMA. Miraz did not yet have access to training partners. A few weeks before the event was to take place, she asked a few of her friends who were wrestlers to teach her one effective ground fighting technique. They introduced her to the armbar, and she worked on executing the maneuver over and over again every day in practice. Miraz made her professional debut at Opla Challenge 89 on November 23, 2013, and submitted Yana Kruzilmia with a second-round armbar. Now, after a victory, the Ukrainian manager, who was shown to bring punching bags to Chinese events, suggested Miraz make the rip to earn a couple more dollars. It was not enjoyable. It was not a very enjoyable experience. Even though she defeated Fear Huang, she executed another armbar less than 3 minutes into their pairing at Kunlun fight number 5. The trip to China was terrible, Miraz said. The manager said I had no chances of winning. He didn't even feed me. I couldn't even change my money, so I was hungry all day before the fight. After the event, the manager got so drunk that he passed out, and they had to take him back to Ukraine. Yikes. However, Miraz, who was living on $15 a week and dressing in second-hand clothes at the time, earned $1,000 in her efforts. When the same manager suggested she return to China for another event, she agreed under one condition. Her husband, Sergei Sokolyev, would go with her. She had met Sokolyev during a Muay Thai sparring session. He was 15 years old and worked as an IT specialist. Miraz knew he could handle the manager if the situation called for it. She was confronted by the seasoned veteran Jin Tong at Kunlun fight number 8 on August 24, 2014. That bout was very difficult for me, Miraz said. I was suffocating and I severely injured my knee. At one point, she rushed in to finish me, almost unconscious. I put the last of my strength into an armbar attempt. Everything happened so quickly that Tang had no time to submit. I heard her bones crunch when I broke her elbow joints. Miraz went on to compete at Moscow and Brazil in her next 2 appearances. She won the first fight via knockout and the second by submission, again by bone-breaking armbar. The fact that she's got no jiu-jitsu training and her grappler friends had to teach her how to do this one move over and over again is incredibly impressive. Just to put this out there. So she ended up defeating Brazilian Karine Silva. It was a profitable outing for Moraz, who pocketed $50,000 for Fight of the Night and received half her opponent's purse due to her failure to make weight, resulting in $70,000 payday. Congratulations for you. Soon afterwards, Moraz received a call from Russian MMA manager Yuri Kislev, who asked if she was interested in competing in the UFC. "Is this a joke?" she asked. Kislev was not joking. The UFC offered Moraz the chance to face Johan Calderwood, the Scotsman who was 9-0 at the time, at UFC Fight Night 64 on April 11, 2015, in Krakow. She was able to sprang in the upset, submitted Calderwood with an armbar in just 90 seconds, and had her contract renewed. Still, Moraz had difficulty finding sponsors in Ukraine and the United States, and many experts believe she was brought to the UFC on a whim and did not expect her to last in the promotion. Those doubts grew louder when Moraz lost a unanimous decision to Valerie Letourneau in her next outing. She goes on to say, "I wasn't worried," she said with a smile, "because I knew the fight was good." Moraz rebounded with a unanimous decision victory over Cristina Stuncio some 7 months later, securing a foothold on the UFC roster. She goes on to say, and I quote, "I prepared for that fight with my friends in St. Petersburg, Russia. I lived with my husband in the closet of a men's locker room at one gym for a month. We didn't have money for a hotel, and I couldn't find better coaches or sparring partners than I had at the gym. Sometimes I had to wait until the locker room was empty to go to the bathroom. I wondered, how am I going to get out there, and the guys undressing over in the locker room because she's living with the guys. Weird. After Stuncio, Moraz moved on to defeat former King of the Cage champion Daniel Taylor by split decision. The pay she received allowed her to remain in the United States, where she devoted much of her time to expanding her arsenal and studying sports nutrition. Her training process was finally in line. However, back-to-back decision losses to Carla Esparza and Angela forced Moraz to rethink her position yet again. She goes on to say, "I already felt like I needed to move to a heavier division. After all, I competed as a bantamweight in boxing. It was not until I got to UFC that I moved to strawweights, but I had to cut 45 pounds to get there. Yikes. Besides, at the time, I had serious issues with the coach the UFC recommended. He tried to make me fight angry and constantly humiliated me. Nobody's going to treat me that way. In addition, the UFC, for some reason, wanted to remove my husband from my list of seconds, and in the bout against Carla Esparza, they succeeded. When she successfully used a double leg takedown, I grabbed onto her for a guillotine. I felt like I had a little bit more in me. I would have finished the fight. That's where my husband's voice could have helped me. Neither the losses nor the issue for her in the corner affected Moraz's relationship with the UFC. The Ukrainian beat Sabino Mazo and Maina Bueno Silva in subsequent outings, both by unanimous decision, the latter earnings giving her $50,000 for a fight of the night. Congratulations yet again. A photo taken of Moraz immediately after the match made the rounds on social media. Despite blood pouring down her face, she embodied the pure enjoyment of victory. She continues saying that, "I remember the fight more than any others. It was the most emotional, the most traumatic. For me, I was cut severely by a knee to the head, and one of my legs was so badly damaged that I could not feel it at all. I don't know how I moved and struck. After the fight, I didn't go and get the cut sewed up. I told my husband, bring me the flag. I wanted to show the whole world that Ukrainian women knew how to win. In accepting this victory, I was upset of some of my fellow compatriots. Only a few of them were happy for me. Others said I sold myself to the Americans, that I was more of a Russian than a Ukrainian. I was very sad, but you know what? I love my country." So, success in the UFC allowed Moraz to grow her audience and gain some financial stability. Ukrainian companies have also taken notice of her. She was supposed to fight against Montana Del Rosa in September, but due to pandemic-related issues, quarantine, COVID, she was not able to obtain the American visa in time. As a result, the bout fell apart. Moraz has since decided to remain in the United States and has settled in Miami, which provides the most suitable climate for her. She says, "Now I train in light mode, hone my techniques, and work with my sparring partners. After several annoying injuries, I realized that you can't just spar with anybody. You have to be careful with choosing sparring partners. I learned that while preparing for my fight with Mazo. A few weeks before the event, a guy who apparently had a burning desire to knock out a girl from the UFC so badly injured my elbow during sparring. I was furious, and since then I only spar with people that trust me." So, she is right now currently looking at Valentina Shevchenko. Says Valentina is great, but not all spectacular as a fighter. She lacks fire in the cage. So that is certainly an interesting story there. Oh my goodness. I wouldn't say you're like Cinderella, but you definitely came from nothing and you became something through mixed martial arts. And that's something that anybody can easily applaud. You went through a lot. Congratulations for making your dreams come true and becoming a UFC fighter. You know what? She's relaxing in Miami, so I guess she did have a happy ending. Now, will she fight Valentina Shevchenko? Well, only time can tell. But with that story coming in close, all I gotta say is thank you. Thank you for listening to the GSMC Women's MMA Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I like to ask, so please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review. That really helps us. Also, if you can please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you, and have a good night.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Women's Mixed Martial Arts Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.